Hey MotoAmerica fans, this is Cam Peterson. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the MotoAmerica YouTube channel for more coverage. Also like and comment.
It's a hot one, and it's the MotoAmerica AMA FIM North American Road Race Championship from the Ridge Motorsports Park in Shelton, Washington, our fourth round of 2021. It's race 2 of the Komatsu MotoAmerica Superbikes at the Ridge. So Supersport on deck, and as I mentioned, race number 2. Hi everybody, welcome to the broadcast booth. I'm Greg White, standing alongside two-time champ Jason Pridmore. Now Jason, we have had 2 standouts this season. We've talked about them before, but really yesterday, Sean Dillon Kelly, who won the race, and Richie Escalante put on a show for us.
No, they really did. There wasn't as many passes as we saw at Wisconsin, but to me, SDK really controlled the race. He had solid pace all the way through. When Escalante got to the front, he made a small mistake, and SDK was able to get back by. And I think it was enough for him to learn where he needs to get better. So I think today SDK is going to be strong again.
Looking at the last 5 races, you can see Sean Dillon Kelly has bookended those last 5 races with Richie Escalante winning a pair himself, and it was that one race won at Road America where we saw one mistake from Sean Dillon Kelly followed immediately by a mistake from Richie Escalante without contact. But this is what the story has been for those last 5 races. But the story for yesterday, Jason, take us through it.
Yeah, when you see here, it's a short little run down to that first turn. And Escalante did get in a little bit deep here. You can see him on the right, but Sean Dillon Kelly got the perfect start. He was really good in the last sector, which is the sector you see them going through here, which is going to give him a lot of confidence going into today, even being able to play back and watch this last night. That was the small mistake that Escalante made after getting through. And after that happened, Sean just literally started to pull away towards the end and get that spot and win the race by, what, 1.2 seconds.
Yeah, and you know what, Jason? The rider in third is Kevin Olmedo in only his 2nd race back. And he put on a great show, and he got to sit down and have a little chit-chat with our very own Hannah Lopa.
Greg, this is only Kevin Olmedo's 2nd round back after sustaining an injury earlier on this season, and you made it to the podium yesterday, Kevin. How would you say your expectations are so far? Have you exceeded them?
Well, I don't know. It's hard to say because last round at Road America it was difficult for me. The first round racing back after my injury. On that race, I feel that I just want to finish to be safety and save some points for the championship. But for this race, I feel that on Thursday at the test, I feel really happy and also excited and a lot of confidence with the bike and the track. So when I saw that I have a good pace and I have a good gap with the 4th place, I just keep calm and try to finish the race. And I was really happy to finish on 3rd.
What has recovery looked like for you in helping get your shoulder back to 100% in order to be able to race?
Still a lot of work to do, but I'm trying to go step by step. Hopefully for the next round it's going to be a little bit better. 2 more weeks. It was the same at Road America coming to here. It was a big difference, but for sure I will try to keep pushing and also try to finish every race.
Well, best of luck out there. And Greg, despite his injury, the question is, will we see Kevin Olmedo on the podium again today?
Kevin Olmedo, such a good dude, always with a smile on his face. And this racetrack puts a smile on a lot of competitors' face.
Yeah, absolutely, Greg. Just short of 2.5 miles is the ridge, and you can see we go down to that chicane up onto the top part. When you get to about turn 3 through 5, you're really rolling up to the top of that hill. Great spectator viewing now with a new grandstand that they put up there, new curbing at this track, and a brand new paved racetrack. So it makes it for a really fun place. What you don't see here is the elevation. There's a lot of that, a lot of good ups and downs. 9 left-handers, 7 right-handers, so it's pretty evenly split. A good track, Greg.
Yeah, plenty of opportunities to pass. What about these 2 guys? Changes made in the morning. Are they going to race it up again? Maybe we'll have 40 passes. We'll find out.
Robbie Floyd and Roger Hayden here in between the program, MotoAmerica Live Plus fans. Several guys to look for, of course, those 3 that we talked about, but also guys like Rocco Landers. What will he have up his sleeve? Week didn't start off well. In the test, I heard he had a little off-track excursion.
He had a crash on Thursday as well, and he had one laps race at Road America, so he's still trying to find his comfort zone. Talking to Rocco the other night at the Ovalle race. He just hasn't found that setting just yet that he's really comfortable with, that base setting we always talk about, that he can take to every track and be comfortable.
Landers Racing, Tyrant Designs, Yamaha, Yamalube entry. Several guys that are going to be rookies, or that are rookies this year to look for, though. We talk about Rocco Landers. We talk about Sam Lochoff. We also mentioned Dominic Doyle. Those are the three amigos that we always saw, the three Musketeers saw together in the Junior Cup. Now we're seeing them together back to back to back up near the podium in the Supersport. It's a different world, different bike, but the same story.
And for Dominic Doyle, yesterday, 6th place. He broke his wrist the very first race at Road Atlanta, so he didn't get to do those 2 races. He set out VIR, so that's 2 races that weekend. Those guys have 4 races of experience, more than he does. Rocco's got 4 more races, and so does Sam Lochoff because he broke his wrist. Now it looks like he kind of got his feet wet at Road America, and this week, and I think also for him that Thursday test gave him an opportunity to get some more laps on the 600.
Don't always count that guy on the smaller bike, and I come from a motocross world, and one of the big instances I always remember is Mike Alessi was always the dominant mini guy, and there was this little Kawasaki kid, or eventually he rode Kawasaki, and Ryan Villapoto, that it was always second fiddle, but when it came time to the big show, that second fiddle was the one that kept winning the championships.
Well, you just never know. Even though some guys are faster and you think they're going to have a great career, you just never know until you race against the best guys. It's a different world, but between those 3 or 4, who knows? And also Gabriel Da Silva, he's another young guy.
Yes.
This is his first season racing Supersport, been inside the top 10. So there's a lot of young talent in this class.
Absolutely. And the reason I was bringing up Ryan Villapoto, he's from the area. I think he's from Puyallup, just down the road in Washington. There's another name we haven't talked about, the 88 of Ben Smith. Could today be his day, the Northeast Cycle Outlet Racing rider. He's got the talent. We've seen the speed. He's been that one guy that has been up there near those front 2, but can he stay there? First, he's got to get there, and it's not going to be an easy road to hoe for him. He's going to have to start in 6th spot today.
A lot of the races this year, he's actually been a little bit closer. Even some of the sessions been first. He's got his podium this year as well. So we've seen him starting to come on a little bit toward the end of last year, really getting inside that top 5. Now hanging on to Sean Dillon Kelly and Richie Escalante, but not always for the whole race. But he's making steps closer. Yesterday he didn't have a very good race. Rocco kind of got into him, got into him in turn 6. 2 lines came together, and he crashed, which wasn't his fault. And also it was just kind of a racing incident, but he got knocked down.
Oh, man, some ice water down in the chesticle area there to try and cool him down. Ben Smith, they're about to light him up here in the Supersport. Coming up next, send back to Greg and Jason next door. Supersport.
Today's Supersport coverage is sponsored by Geico Motorcycle. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on your car or motorcycle insurance. And by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series.
Oh boy, look at Mount Rainier here at the Ridge Motorsports Park. And Jason, it's time to take a look at the grid because Sean Dillon Kelly sits on pole after a record-setting lap.
Yep, Escalante and Olmedo, those were our podium finishes yesterday in that order. Then we had Lochoff, Landers, and Benjamin Smith on row 2. Look for Benjamin Smith today to hopefully have a little better race. Max Angles, Dominic Doyle, Nolan Lampkin, Da Silva, Nissany, and Minster are going to round out row number 4. Thermiotis, Grant, Soltis, LaRoche, Sabara, and Miller. A little bit further back, Petrati, Zaragoza, Crescep, Lane, Blackall, and Stephen Campbell. Got a lot of local guys up here in the Pacific Northwest. Melnick's on the last row 9 there. See if Philip was able to get his bike back together. Saw him have a little tumble yesterday, so hopefully he's all ready to go today. But yeah, a lot of local fast guys up here. Race with the local series, and so that's why our grid a little bit bigger here at 600.
Yeah, 9 minutes after 1 o'clock local time, and the heat doesn't actually peak here in Shelton, Washington, in the area until later on in the day. And hopefully most of our races will be concluded by the time it peaks out. Expected to be 109 degrees today, Jason.
Yeah, it's pretty hot out there right now, obviously. But so far the riders seem like they're coping pretty well with that. Seen a lot of these guys in ice baths around the pits and just trying to deal with this weather. But for right now, these 600 riders, they just have to grit it out for 16 laps.
So for Supersport, this is their warm-up lap, a chance for them to take one last look at the track, get some heat into their tires as we look at the number 1 plate, Richie Escalante, coming to form up the grid. Front row, position number 2 for our number 1 plate. And Jay, yesterday, it was Richie Escalante who set the fastest race lap around the Ridge Motorsports Park, a 1:43.809. In terms of the sun, in terms of the temperature, even though we raced later in the day yesterday, because it's warmer today, we're at about the same temperature, same track temp and same ambient temperature, floating right around 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
So key that both of these guys get good starts and don't get stuck behind somebody, because then the other one's allowed to make a break, and that's what we've seen in our last 2 races, the race 2 at Wisconsin and race 1 yesterday. So look for this front row to be getting off the line quickly here.
It's time to heat things up in Supersport race number 2 from the Ridge. When those lights go off, we're going racing. Here we go. Kevin Olmedo, the 16, looks like he got a decent launch off the front row. Bending it into turn number 1, it's going to be Sean Dylan Kelly, M4 Star Suzuki, leading the way from the 16 of Kevin Olmedo.
And that's exactly what Escalante, again, didn't really want to see anybody in between him, but Olmedo with a great start on the Alta Suzuki. Spoke with him earlier today, Greg. He was really excited about his opportunity to get back and be healthy, and with that shoulder that we heard Hannah talking with him about. But his whole goal is to do exactly what he's doing now, get off the line with these 2 fast guys that have been kind of setting the pace for the last couple of years, and do his best to mix it up with them, but hopefully pull a big enough gap to where at the end of the race, if he is running in 3rd, he'll have a big enough gap to 4th. And you can see right now, Olmedo looks strong.
Yeah, but it also looks like Sam Lochoff has made a jump on his M4 Star Suzuki. He sits there in 4th place. But Olmedo told me, Jason, this morning when I was talking with him, that his shoulder yesterday, his left shoulder, which he had surgery on, is good for about 4 to 5 laps, and about midway through the race, it starts to get fatigued. So he's really working on that core, the core and his leg stability under braking. So it's really coming off the back straightaway into turn 13 where it's really been bothering him, and into the chicane is where that shoulder starts to get a little bit of pain and fatigue. But right now, the number 16 Kevin Olmedo, who we're talking about on the Altus Motorsports Suzuki GSX-R 600, doing a great job in 2nd spot. Yeah, trying to keep Sean Dylan Kelly right in his sights.
Yep, and really, like you said, Greg, great mention on Sam Lochoff. He's actually closed the gap from the first couple corners, but loses a little bit of time here in that last section. Section did Lochoff there coming down the hill. So keep an eye on 44 though, because he just continues to get better as the days go. And right now he sees these 3 guys in front of him, and we're looking back just a little bit more. Benjamin Smith's in 5th. Landers has come through in 7th right now.
Kevin Olmedo, fastest lap of the race after 1 complete, a 1:47.7. So we're, look at Olmedo
moving around a little bit already, you know. And
so what Kevin told me too, Jason, was later stages of this race, the bike really starts to move around, and it's controlling those front and rear slides at the same time. That also works the fatigue. Let's get right down to Hannah. Hannah, what's going on?
Greg, you mentioned that the temperature is just as hot today. The track conditions are going to be exactly the same we saw yesterday. Again, not a cloud in the sky. Fortunately for our riders, despite the heat, that means they know how these tires are going to hold up throughout the duration of this race. But one rider who might be a little uncertain of how his tire is going to hold up is Richie Escalante. He actually changed his rear tire compound from that 0455, a little bit of a harder compound, to the softer, the 097 on the rear. He tried it in warm-up this morning and said it gave him better drive out of the corners. So hopefully that'll make a difference for him today in being able to close the gap to Sean and hang on.
Yeah, additionally, the Honos HVMC team, talking with Chris Lessing, the crew chief, said they were also working on a bit of a geometry change to try to get that motorcycle to come off the corner better and work that last section where he suffered so much yesterday. Kevin Olmedo starting to lose touch ever so slightly with Sean Dylan Kelly, your race leader.
And that spells bad news for the number 1 right now. I just feel like SDK has so much pace this weekend, and he looks so confident. And that bike just doesn't look like it does anything wrong for him. But Escalante's got to try to make some sort of work here of Olmedo, as he's going to try as they go down into the chicane here, into turn 1. You can see the chatter on Olmedo in front of his bike, but Escalante is able to make that work. But now we've got almost a full second between 1st and 2nd when they came in and over the line there. So Olmedo's done his work, though. He's gone off with these two guys, just like he did yesterday. Now he's going to try to do everything he can to stick on the back of Escalante. But, boy, you give this guy right now, you give him a second, and it just makes it hard work because he's so consistent with his times.
Yeah, 1:44.7 for Sean Dillon Kelly so far, fastest lap of the race. And then that pass by Escalante over Olmedo, Sam Lochoff, Benjamin Smith, who we saw get into it with Rocco Landers yesterday in 5th. Landers in 6th, De Silva in 7th, Max Angles in 8th, Dominic Doyle in 9th, and Jared Nassani in 10th.
And when you look at it, Greg, you can see this pass as you get down underneath that bridge. It's really a good passing spot if you can get that drive out of that last corner. If you look on the right side of our screen, Olmedo has not let Escalante completely have his own way, getting away from him just a little bit. And Escalante is under some pressure now to try to close this gap back down. These guys are so close, obviously, in race pace every weekend and in the championship that you just keep giving 5 points here or 5 points there, and it adds up quickly. So right now, Escalante's going to have to get his head down. Looking at our screen, he has gone fast his first split, but man, SDK just keeps on responding with quicker splits in the second. And we know how good he is down here. This is where this bike shines right here, Greg.
Yeah, and talking with Sean Dillon Kelly this morning in his transporter, I said, man, everything was clicking so well yesterday. Any changes to the motorcycle? And he just said, no, changes to me. He knew that he was struggling a little bit in Sector 2 compared to Richie Escalante. And so it's what he personally wanted to work on because he understood how good he was through that last section and how much of a gap. He watched the races after his race to see where he was stronger. And Escalante, always the student of racing, is Sean Dillon Kelly.
Yeah, and that's just smart. That's just being able to go back, and if you can watch it with your crew, or they can, having that availability to be able to go back and look at certain things. And what it allows you to do is reflect on laps, reflect on things. There might be a lap where you can look on your sheet and see 6th or 7th lap, you had a problem here, a problem there, reflected by the lap times. You can look at when your tires start to go off, what lap that might be. More importantly, like you say, you can look at sectors. That's why it's so important for even you and I to have this screen in front of us. We can look at those sectors and we can see where one guy's a little bit better than the next. So right now, Sector 2, again, you can see Escalante starts to close that up a little bit. 44.4 the last lap by for Escalante, fastest lap of the race. He's already gained a 10th in that first split, so let's see what he does here in the second.
Kevin Olmedo going to get on an airplane tonight and head back home to El Salvador and continue to rehab that shoulder. Every day critical for him to get healthier and healthier. The doctor telling him that his shoulder's never going to be 100%, but his goal is to get it as healthy as possible. But these two, Escalante on the charge, trying to reel in Sean Dillon Kelly and make this one the race he wants. See if that rear tire change that Hannah talked about is going to pay off for Escalante.
One of the hardest things, Greg, is when you know that you're at a little bit of a deficit in a particular section of the track, and talking to Escalante is this last sector here where we know SDK is so good. It puts a lot of pressure on you to be as perfect as you can so that you're not losing 2 or 3 or 4 tenths. If you lose a 10th in that last sector and then you feel like you can make that up in other places, that's good. But the last thing you need to do is make a mistake in that last sector where your rival is so strong, and you can see that gap pulled away again just from that last split by itself.
Jason, in talking to Sean Dillon Kelly yesterday, he said, started the race strong, kind of made a mistake in the middle, finished the race strong. I said, what can you do differently today? He said, I wanted to get up to speed faster, but he said he's being a little bit hard on himself. But today, it's just a matter of being more consistent. He knows those tire wears is going to taper off consistently. And the bike setup today has a lot to do with managing tire wear, but he also said his riding style allows him to be kind to the tire as well. But back to what you were saying, Greg, working on himself in warm-up, trying different lines in a few spots, especially in those first and second sectors. The only other real change they made was really small adjustment to the clutch to smooth out entry into turn 13.
Yeah, which pretty much sounds the same as yesterday. But Jay, to talk about lap times, we talked Sean Dillon Kelly had just gone last time by the stripe, fastest lap of the race at a 44.3, but then it was Richie Escalante who did a 44.1. So last lap, Escalante got 0.2 of a second, but really accordion effect right now, and Sean Dillon Kelly will get information that Richie Escalante is really closing in on Sean Dillon Kelly. So this is top of the hill. You can again hear that Suzuki, just a little bit of chatter going in there. No big dramas, and actually what you heard also was Kevin Olmedo on a similar motorcycle, Team Hammer, the technical partner for Altus Motorsports, building Kevin Olmedo's motorcycle, and the crew from Altus working on it and making it to his liking. but very similar in terms of machinery for the 16 and the 40.
Yep, and you look a little further back, Olmedo, then Lochoff, then Benjamin Smith. So Olmedo's not quite as far ahead as he would have probably liked to have been. That's because Lochoff has stepped it up today, and Benjamin Smith is right there as well. You can see him just behind Lochoff in 5th. This young man here has been probably the one I've been most impressed with this year is Sam Lochoff. He's continued to just keep getting better and better without making those big mistakes that we see rookies make when they make that step. So right now, Lochoff doing a nice job keeping Olmedo in front of him. We still have 11 laps to go, so there's a lot of racing back for that last podium spot, and Benjamin Smith will factor into this also. As you can see, those 3 guys tied together. Last lap by 44.3 for this guy, 44.7 for Escalante. That gap is getting bigger at the front.
11 laps to go. Sean Dillon Kelly grabbing a couple downshifts. Everything looking so smooth on that M4X Star Suzuki. Escalante right now wishing he'd had a better start, Jay, because I mean it's really the difference in start. There's nothing between them in lap times. I mean, last time by, like you mentioned, 0.4 of a second the difference, as SDK was a little quicker than Escalante.
But you can see on this lap he hasn't gained anything on this lap, and now we're in Kelly's wheelhouse right here. Look at how good that bike turns and gets through there. He goes all the way back to first, short shifts it down that hill, and just he's able to get this bike rolling, and then it comes out of there. And look at the gap now, Greg. You can see it visibly. It just keeps opening up more and more. So Escalante almost looks like he's lost his advantage a little bit. What are we in? 6 laps now. It lost his advantage in those first couple sectors of being able to pull that gap back. And this guy's able to just keep another 0.2 there in that last split. So that's where it's all happening. And if you can't gain any of that back, man, it gets hard, Greg. It gets really hard being that second place guy and seeing this gap getting bigger. A lot of times we're trying to make up that time, and any little mistakes or any little idiosyncrasies that we fail on a little bit just lets that gap get bigger. It's exhausting.
It has to be. And also, you know, Jay, looking at Sean Dillon Kelly too, leading out front, he gets to do whatever he wants. Let's have a listen, Jay, to what we're talking about in turn number 13. Left part of
What you can hear, Greg, is when he makes that transition from off throttle to that brake all the way to that bike's going forward, and he's back shifting it all the way to first gear. So that's why you're hearing that rear wheel just chatter along the ground there. He's doing it all while he's pretty upright, and you can see here, I believe he goes all the way back to first gear for this corner also. And you know, the Suzuki utilizes first gear in a lot of areas, and it really allows that bike to accelerate well. And he is literally now just putting the hammer down. Is Kelly's 44.4 again. That last lap, another 0.3 in the bag for him. So this gap went from 1 point, what was nothing, now it's 1.2 the last lap, and it's going to get bigger even more this lap.
That was a smooth entry into turn 13 for SDK 40. So coming onto the front straightaway, the M4X Star Suzuki rider. We'll take a look at the gap now. Escalante trying everything he can to keep him in sight. A 44.4 to 44.8. So Kelly gets another couple of tenths of a second. The gap now to 1.6, and the battle for third starting to get interesting.
Olmedo gets in there really tight. I've seen that a couple times from him. He gets really close to the curbing, and it looks like there's some bumps there that upset the motorcycle when Kevin turns into that very first part of that chicane. So we're going to keep an eye on that. A lot of guys look like they go just around the outside of those bumps a little bit, or maybe they're going through it and their bikes just aren't as upset by it. You see how much tighter Lochoff can keep his bike through that complex of the track too. That'd be turns 4 and 5 as they go now down into turn 6. This is a kind of a blind left-hander where you come up over the top of the ridge and you cannot see actually where your entry point is, and then his turn just goes on forever. And then right here it drops away again into a very steep downhill. The bike G's out right there, so you got to be really kind of careful with how your brake application is when you get to the bottom of this hill. And this is all downhill. They're going to short shift the bike. They're going to go through this thing wide open. And you can see Lochoff is now drawn up to the back of Olmedo completely.
Sam Lochoff, the 44, M4X Star Suzuki, diving underneath Kevin Olmedo, and he'll take third spot. So the Supersport rookie, the 19-year-old from South Africa, taking advantage of Olmedo opening up the door and possibly fatiguing that shoulder. And I talked to Kevin Jason about that shoulder, and I said, what could you possibly have done, last night to rehab it? And he said, just relax, just relax. But really, in this heat and the amount of energy that the Ridge Motorsports Park takes, no place to rest, as we've talked about before, that, doing it 2 days in a row can definitely take its toll.
Yep, and the good thing about Kevin is he's always going to be a fighter. He'll fight back if he can, but that shoulder injury, it'll continue to get better as the year goes on, and shoulder injuries like that are very tough, and like you said, the doctor had told him now that line was a little bit better. I didn't see his bike moving around as much that time when he went in the beginning part of that chicane. But yeah, those shoulder injuries, he'll continue to get better and rehab it when he gets home, and hopefully be better even again for Laguna Seca. But Lochoff really has impressed me a lot this year, Greg, like I said, only because he's able to continue to increase his pace throughout the weekend, and even in these second races, he's obviously learned something from yesterday that's helped him today. Hannah?
Jason, I agree with you completely, and I think Sam will be pretty pleased with his performance right now again as well. He said the only real change they made for today was an adjustment to front tire pressure to mitigate some chatter toward the end of the race, so as we head into this second half. He said a podium today will really depend on if he can get around Olmedo and hold on to it, but the main thing for Lochoff is that he's been spending so much time working with PJ Jacobson. He said PJ listens to him so closely and gives him really good advice, and Jake Zemke also gives a lot of influence, and this advice allows him to really work on himself. He has a good idea of the bike and what it's capable of, so the combination of these factors has really helped his confidence and set him up for success.
When you take a kid that's 19 years old and you gain his trust like PJ has, and Jake, when you have a kid that they have your trust, you can literally tell them to try just about anything on a motorcycle, and they will. And that's, you can see the influence that both those guys have had. They've both been in the paddock. They've both been racing around the world, and that's really going to help somebody like Sam. And that's why we see him turning into the rider he is.
Sean Dylan Kelly continuing to lead, 1.6 seconds. Was the last time by. So SDK goes across, still circulating in the 144s. And what about these two? Olmedo kind of closed in. Sam Lochoff now with a 45.4. Jason, the thing that's impressive about the 44 on the M4 X-Star Suzuki, the fastest lap for Lochoff is a 45.1, and he's been doing these mid-45s. It was like 45.7, 45.4 now. And it's that consistency you want to see as a young rider.
Yeah,
here's
the pass. The second that you're in this situation here, you're braking upright. Now you start to tip in, and you can see Lochoff had set that pass up a long way back. As soon as that rider starts to swing out to try to late apex this turn 11, it allows the rider behind to kind of slide up underneath. And what it does, especially as he gets a good solid X out of there, it's going to put him in the inside when they get to turn 12. Now turn 12 here has a little bit of a ridge to itself. You can see how it kind of goes back uphill a little bit, but it does open up on the exit, so it allows Sam to get in there tighter, but get the bike up off the edge of the tire and drive it out of there.
Sam Lochoff has had one podium finish this season, a second place finish at our 5th race of the year. That would have been Road America race number 1. So Lochoff looking to do it again. And he looks so good on the motorcycle too, Jason, just watching the 19-year-old. An international affair here in Supersport. We have an American leading the way over Escalante, who's from Mexico, Lochoff from South Africa, Kevin Olmedo from El Salvador. And then Benjamin Smith, Rocco Landers, Doyle Nassani has gotten around Max Angles, and Nolan Lampkin in 10th place. Spread out all over the racetrack now, Jay. This is a good battle. Boy, I really thought that Kevin Olmedo wouldn't have a choice in this.
But close now.
But this
really
is where Kevin needs strength and doesn't necessarily have it. Is braking, hard braking into this turn 1 chicane.
Olmedo just ran his personal best lap of the race. So obviously the pace of these two guys now has got it a little bit closer. And Olmedo runs a 45.2 that last lap to just kind of stick on the back. And these guys, yeah, Greg, you're noticing it too. There's places where Lochoff's a little bit quicker, and there's places where Olmedo's a little bit quicker.
And Kevin Olmedo's doing a great job.
Kevin Olmedo is doing a great job, and I talked to him and he said they're running the same settings and tires as yesterday. He really wanted to try hard to push at the start of this race, but Lochoff has just been putting pressure on him. He said ultimately if he feels he's taking too much risk, he's going to settle into a good rhythm and maintain as many points as he possibly can.
Well, Hannah, while you were talking, Olmedo made that mistake. He actually got into turn 6 a little bit deep and ran it really wide at the entry of turn 6. So he comes off of his fastest lap of the race just a lap before, and that one little mistake, and you mark that with the fact that Sam Lochoff, Greg, just went the fastest first split of anybody in this race, including this guy, Sean Dillon, Kelly, and Escalante. So Sam Lochoff goes fastest first split of the race, and then you put that with Olmedo's little bit of a mistake. That gap between 3rd and 4th has opened up about almost as much as this gap right now between 1st and 2nd.
Amazing. With 5 laps to go in this race, that Sam Lochoff is able to go fastest in split number 1. It shows you how well the Dunlop tires are working in this heat. There's our race leader, Sean Dillon Kelly, through the chicane. As smooth as you like it, SDK, when he gets the right lean angle too. You can see on his elbows, he likes to drag that elbow on the ground. It gives him another point of contact to figure out exactly where he is lean angle wise.
That Suzuki works so well through that little section after you come through the chicane, those 2 fast lefts. He's not even using all the racetrack on the entries to those. That bike just turns so well as it climbs back up that hill. He's just cutting that track distance off, and you know, he's really got that part of the track nailed down really well. And even down through here now, Greg, he's still in the 44s consistently, 44.7. Lochoff just went 44.8, fastest lap of the race for that young man back in 3rd. Now we're starting to see Escalante. He just puts up the fastest first split. He gains 3/10 on Sean Dillon Kelly. It's 1.9 the last time they came across, Greg. So maybe Escalante was trying to pace himself a little bit for a big push here with 5 to go.
Impressive. This deep into the race to watch sector times falling. Sam Lochoff last time by the stripe, a 44.8 for him. So Lochoff, Jason, yesterday Sam Lochoff went 44.961. So that's the fastest race lap that Sam Lochoff in 3rd place has done this weekend.
He does it on lap 10 or 11, and you know the neat thing for him right now, he can still make this right-hand corner and still see those leaders up ahead of him. That does so much for a young guy's it does a lot for their courage and what they're trying to get their confidence. Yeah, I couldn't get that out. It does a lot for a young guy's confidence when he can see that the leaders are not that far away. They're not pulling away that much anymore. So for him to do a 44.8 this late in the race, it's a big deal.
Here we go, another lap complete for Sam Lochoff, the 44 M4XR Suzuki. His teammate Sean Dillon Kelly came across the line 10.3 seconds ahead of him, and Lochoff 8.8 behind Escalante. And now Lochoff has got a gap of 2.4 back to Kevin Olmedo. Impressive what this young man's doing right now, and as we march towards the second half of the MotoAmerica season, he continues to make strides forward. I don't think it's going to be too long before we see Sam Lochoff mixing it up with the likes of Sean Dillon Kelly, Escalante. Oh, Austin Miller, the 61 down.
It's going to be turn 15 or 14 as they come down the hill. You can see he's lost the front. You see that big black tire mark right there where the front is tucked underneath him. Good to see Austin up and okay, though. He was running, Greg, I think he was running 14th when that happened. So
we'll see if they can get that bike cleared and out of the way. So this race continues on. Looks like some lap traffic that Sean Dillon Kelly is getting ready to get through. With about 3.5 laps to go. Still circulating, Jason, within 7/10 of his fastest lap of the race. The fastest lap of this race credited to Richie Escalante at a 44.1.
He's closed it down, though, 1.5, and now it looks even closer. All right, so they're going to get underneath, I think that was Crescent, but I'm not sure, number 70, and you can see kind of gets out of the way. But Escalante is charging, Greg. Maybe, like we said, with 5 to go, maybe he saved a little bit of something. So let's look at the lap time this time by 45.3 to a 44.6.
Oh, boy.
So now we're going to have to keep a really close eye on these two guys over the course of the next, 3 laps to go here.
He just halved the distance between them. Did Escalante. It's now only 7/10 of a second, but this is where SDK is strongest. But yesterday it was really that last sector, and that's where Richie Escalante made up a lot of time.
Yeah, he's coming right now, Greg, as far as he's going to try to get on the back here of Sean Dillon Kelly. He's getting closer. And then that last split, here we go, Greg, fastest first split of the race for Escalante.
Oh, the number 1 plate is on the move. Trying to reel in his championship rival, Sean Dillon Kelly. 16 points separate the two in the championship currently. When they came into this race weekend, Sean Dillon Kelly with 3 race wins and Escalante with 2. He's trying to split it. And there is Richie Escalante, only a couple bike lengths between them now, and all the momentum going the way of the number 1. The question is, where is he stronger, and when is he going to do it?
When I saw that gap get to about 2 seconds, I thought, wow, SDK's really got this under control. But now we're seeing purple pop up on our screen with Escalante twice now in that first split. He's been able to gain 2 to 3/10 of a second, and he's on the back of him with 2 to go. So SDK's lap board is going to go from +1 to +2, and it's going to go back to +0 now with 2 to go.
So definitely right there, that section, it looks a lot better for Escalante. It's not great, but it looks like it's about halved what the deficit was yesterday. And this is where you see Escalante's body language. The best thing about motorcycle road racing versus, say, car racing, you can see what the athlete's doing. And now Escalante starting to get deep on the brakes and throw it sideways a little bit. But it's up the hill here where Sean Dillon Kelly, he will have gotten a pit board saying +0 like you're saying. And so now we're looking at Sean Dillon Kelly's response to Escalante's charge.
Yeah, and that's what I want to see. I want to be able to see if SDK can actually respond to this right now. First split should be coming up on our screen, and they're both 34.4 to 34.3, so it's a 10th. You don't even need to know that, though. You can see how close this is, and look how good Escalante's bike turns there as they get ready to come down this hill.
All right, so there wasn't the spot. He had a good drive on him.
And I wouldn't be surprised. I think SDK is going to keep this bike really tight as they get up into this turn 11 area. This is 9 now. Now they're going up this big steep hill. When they go kink it back to the right, when they go back left, let's see if SDK keeps this bike nice and tight.
He was off the throttle a little earlier, was Escalante, than SDK. SDK's got to be able to hear him. Lap traffic in the way, getting out of the way, which is good. Let this race get going. All right, so Richie Escalante. There you go. SDK has a look over his shoulder. The number 40 M4X Star Suzuki. He saw that it's Escalante. I knew he was going to be able to hear him, but sometimes, Jay, with lap traffic, you got to double check.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and he knows he's there now, and we're going to see white flag this time by. You know, you got to feel that if he can get down through that turn 4-5 area clean, he could try something in 6. But see that gap? That gap has gotten bigger again in that last split, and it only was a 10th quicker, but it was when you're already a 10th or 2 behind, that's where that gap looks even bigger now. SDK does a tremendous job getting out of there. Now this gap's going to be hard to close for Escalante, and it's really now Sean Dillon Kelly's race to lose. He'll be able to run kind of a defensive line all the way till he gets to that section where he is strong at, which is turn 11. He right down through here right now, Escalante just isn't quite close enough. Now we're going to look when they come up here into turn 6. The drive out of 6 was where Escalante looked strong last lap, but I just don't feel like he's close enough right now. His bike works good through here, though.
It does work good, but from this point forward, getting to turn 13, it seems like Sean Dillon Kelly has got it dialed in. Escalante putting it in. He's putting in the work. He's giving it a go, but there's only so much he can ask from those Dunlop tires. Working so hard to try to get the race win. To launch an attack in 13, Escalante is really going to have to pull something out here. No, it's a big gap. And back there, Lochoff ran off. Olmedo's in 3rd. So.
He does such a good job there. Kelly does a really nice job of closing that door. He's going to do the same thing here. Now, this is where that bike works so well, Greg. It accelerates out of these turns in first gear and just gets that jump, that initial jump. And now he knows, I feel he knows he's home free. If he can just get down through this section clean, it's going to be very difficult. He's in deep, he's in tight also, Greg, but he's going to be able to close that door. No problem. If you're going to let that guy go by you, let him try to do it on the outside. Really smart riding by Sean Dillon Kelly here.
Last couple corners for the M4X Star Suzuki rider, Sean Dillon Kelly, onto the front straightaway. The drag race to the checkered flag. Escalante and his Honos HVMC motorcycle trying to do it. No, it's going to be Sean Dillon Kelly with another victory. What a move. Oh, you got to make sure you go through that chicane. You don't want a penalty. Here comes Kevin Olmedo with Sam Lochoff having a great race running off the track. It's going to be Kevin Olmedo who put in the work and is going to be rewarded with double podiums. 3rd place for Kevin.
Such a bummer for Lochoff. We didn't get to see it because we were locked in that battle for first, obviously. And but Olmedo does get that double podium. Same podium as yesterday. You could tell what these 10 points mean to this guy. He lost 6 at Wisconsin, gains 10 here, so his gap is continuing to increase. And here's, looks like Jarrett Nassani coming to the line with, it looks like Alex Thermiotis. Yep, they're coming to the line. This is going to be the battle for 9th and 10th. Just up the road from them was Angles and Doyle, and Rocco Landers was 6. So Thermiotis gets that top 10.
What a race from Sean Dillon Kelly, with all the pressure on him at the end of the race. Huffing and puffing from the heat, all that training paying off. He deserves that wheel in the air. Oh, hand off the bar and a little wave to the crowd. What a move. We talked about the last lap too, coming in, making sure you get that chicane. And we're told that he did make it. In the Junior Cup category, one of our racers didn't make the chicane and was docked 5 seconds. So for Sam Lochoff, a little conversation, and he's telling him where he ran off. We're going to hear from Sean Dillon Kelly and how he handled the pressure of Escalante when we return to the Ridge.
Robbie Floyd and Roger Hayden here with you on MotoAmerica Live Plus and on site here at the Ridge Motorsports Park. Just when I was ready to about take a nap until the end of that race happened, and then all of a sudden a race showed up, and Richie Escalante was making up ground, and looked like SDK losing a little bit with the lappers there, but that was a close one at the end.
That was really close, and I was kind of expecting Escalante to maybe make a move. That first 2 sectors, he was really fast, but you could tell that turn 11 where we've seen a lot of passes, Sean Dillon Kelly was not letting the bike drift up and not open the door. But like you said, that lappers, I think, held up. Sean Dillon Kelly had a 45 in there, and that's really a lap time, and that's really when Richie Escalante closed up.
Were you surprised that Richie wasn't there more often earlier? I mean, it seemed like he kind of lost touch a little bit, a lot earlier than I would have expected.
Yes and no. I mean, you expect those two to race it out all the way till the end, but also Sean Dillon Kelly is rolling, and he's really fast. It's not going to be easy to stay with him. So I'm a little, you would think that he could be. He wants to race him, and he's always within like that second, and it was just a couple tenths a lap. But those two are really even.
You and I were watching this race and pointing out, oftentimes we'd hear, that Kawasaki's so fast. That's what we used to hear out of the Suzuki camp last year. That Kawasaki's so fast, the 636 or whatever. That wasn't the case today with M4 Suzuki. It looked like he had some really good grunt off of those turns. And you said that could be just a gearing change or a gearing adjustment.
Yeah, it looks like Sean Dillon Kelly was getting off like turn 11, turn 12 really good. And to me, that's probably just the gearing.
Yeah.
Probably.
But that's a smart decision, right? I want more top end. I'm not going to have that same gearing that'll enable me to do that on the.
You just got to find what works everywhere. So, and Sean Dillon Kelly's had it figured out. Those two, because Richie Escalante would be right on him in turn 11, and just, that last sector is really where Sean Dillon Kelly was the quickest.
Didn't having that grunt just coming out of that turn, he knew that if he could block even a little bit, we did see blocking it. That you said that would be one of the best passes you've ever seen in your life when we did see Richie Escalante do what he did, and Sean get really protective on that last lap.
Yeah, I don't. Sean went on the inside. The only thing Richie Escalante could do was try to ride around the outside in 13 and try to be in the right spot into 14. But that would be a really tough pass, and he
ran out of real estate, brother. He ran out of real estate. And Sean definitely wasn't going to let him do the over-under move as well. But Sean Dillon Kelly, again, gaining those points for the victory, 25, the max points for that. Another win, though. That's the thing. I mean, we really, the one problem at Road America, we really haven't seen SDK make a wrong move this year at all.
He's looked really solid this year, right from the very first race. You can tell he's got a little bitter taste in his mouth from last year. He's come out this year and been really fast at all the tracks we've been to. Even in the practices, he's been doing all the work, putting tons of laps together at a really fast pace.
Sean Dillon Kelly, 2 years ago, looked like he could win any given race by the end of the season, but his teammate at the time, Bobby Fong, took the championship. Last year, he could win any given race, and it was Richie Escalante that took the season. This year, Sean Dillon Kelly's winning many races, and he's in the championship lead so far in this season. Let's send back over to Jason and Greg, to our MotoAmerica crew next door, and see what they have to say.
Today's Superbike race coverage has been sponsored by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series.
Celebration for M4XR Suzuki's Sean Dillon Kelly after another outstanding performance. It could have ended in a much different way, but what a job SDK was able to do to hold on to this lead and take the checkered flag first. Oh, a little smoocherooski for you, Jason Pridmore.
Yeah, well, he can do whatever he wants. You can see this is our save of the race presented by Geico, and this is SDK going into that top turn 13 on his last lap. He's protecting that inside line, Greg, and really it's impossible to pass around the outside here, even for as good a rider as Escalante is. SDK does a nice job saving his win and coming down this hill on the run to the checkered flag. Here's a look at the results.
Sean Dillon Kelly, a 1/10 of a second over Escalante, and then Olmedo, 21.2 back. Another podium for him. Lochoff, big disappointment, I'm sure, as he had the podium in sight, but nonetheless, a great ride over Benjamin Smith, Rocco Landers. Doyle, let's get right down to Hannah Lopa in winner's circle.
Double here this weekend, and his 5th victory this season so far. Were you expecting Richie to close the gap to you and have to ride defensively on those last couple corners?
Man, that was definitely a tough race, as if yesterday it wasn't. You know, I feel like a little hotter conditions, tires felt a little different, but I went out and tried my absolute best, gave it all. I saw that halfway through the race it was a little bit of a gap, and I thought I was going to be able to at least maintain it, but wasn't able to do the fastest rhythm in the last half, but it was still, it was enough. I ran into a lapper, and I think that's where Richie really caught up the most. But anyways, his pace was really good in the last half, and he got right behind me, but it was right with a couple laps to go. I saw that he wasn't close enough for a move, so I tried to push as hard as I can the half of the last lap and defend a little bit the last few corners just in case. So it worked out well. Huge thank you to my whole M4XR Suzuki team. We did a double at Washington. This feels amazing. We're going in Laguna feeling really good, and just huge thank you to the whole team. Thank you, Ride. Thank you, Fresh and Lean, for keeping me strong in these hot conditions. And overall, just thank you to everyone back at home for supporting me, my family, Mike for training me so hard for these conditions, and love everyone. Love you, family. I know you're watching from home. Love you guys.
Congrats, Sean. Guys.
5 wins on the season, 2 second-place finishes. SDK is shredding this season, Jason.
Yeah, putting a great year together so far. Just got to keep the momentum going to Laguna Seca here, as you said, in a couple of weeks. I know he's going to be looking forward to that. Let's get back down to Hannah.
2nd place today, our defending champion, Richie Escalante. Richie, where were you able to make up some time to try and catch Sean to push to the final fight to the line?
Yes, you know, I think the most important is start to working on my stars to more easy race for me. In the first lap, I tried to pass Olmedo very quickly, so I have two laps to pass, so Sean take a gap, and yeah, you never give up. You know, I always pushing every lap, lap by lap, to try to catch him, and then in the last lap, I very close. Sean this weekend very strong, and last year too in the sector 3, so very difficult to pass there, but I'm very happy to finish more close to compare yesterday race, the distance. So yeah, thanks to Honor Racing, Hudson Valley, Graves Kawasaki, I'm really happy, and yeah, it's time to working for the next race. I really like to win races again, so let's working, and thanks to French Charlene, HGC, Vircos, all my family, and yeah, I see you at Laguna.
Congratulations today, 2nd place finisher, Richie Escalante.
Well, a 26-year-old from Mexico logs his 6th podium in 8 races of the season in trying to defend his #1 plate. He got close today, but 1/10 of a second. But 3rd place goes to this young guy who's hanging out with Hannah Lopa.
Back-to-back 3rd place finishes for Kevin Olmedo. Kevin, take us through that battle with Sam Lochoff, and what exactly happened? You said you were having some trouble on that last lap there.
Well, I tried in the start of the race to keep the pushing with the first group, but after lap number 5, I started losing the grip, and I almost crashed like 6 times during the race. So, and also in lap 6 or 7, I lost the rear brake. So I lost a lot of confidence because I used a lot of rear brake. But after that, I tried to set a pace. Samuel, it was a lot of good pace, but after that, I saw that he ran off of the track. I tried to be patient the last 2 laps, and well, thanks to God, thanks to all the team, all the mechanics, and also my family. Thank you very much. I will be back home tomorrow, so it's gonna be good. And for the next round, I will keep pushing hard.
Congrats, Kevin. And guys, he'll be bringing 2 trophies home to his family in El Salvador this week. What a way to celebrate.
What a way to celebrate. Sean Dylan Kelly celebrating after a big win. We'll have more from the Ridge after this.
Congratulations to Sean Dylan Kelly. And we were giggling listening to Kevin Olmedo because he says it with a smile on his face and his Salvadoran accent. I lost grip in the 5 laps. I almost crashed every lap. I mean, he's being honest with it. He's like almost like, thank you, Lord, for letting me make it through this race and another podium finish. But I mean, golly, he just keeps doing it. Richie had a shot there when until the very end. I didn't think he would, but I mean, all 3 of these guys put on a great run. But yeah, you got to feel good for Kevin Olmedo after having to miss the start of the season and coming out there and throw double podiums like that.
Coming back from an injury, and you know, you're always so worried when you miss a race. Do I still got it? Now he knows. He comes in here, gets a couple podiums, can get a little closer to the guys in front of him. But what about also shout out to Sam Lochoff for his ride? Even though he got 4th, he was in 3rd for the longest time. Ran off the track somewhere, but I mean, he should be proud of that ride. His best lap was only a half a second off of what Sean Dylan Kelly's best lap was. And I think that's the stuff that he has to, you know, look at to try to make that a little bit shorter, get a little bit closer to that, make the difference between him and Sean Dylan Kelly shorter each race. It's not 26.3 seconds because he made a mistake. So Sam looked really well, and he's impressing me in this class.
Man, he's the future. I mean, look what it's taken 3 years now for Sean Dylan Kelly to get where he's at. Richie Escalante, more than that. Kevin Olmedo, it's his 2nd year. And then you have Sam Lochoff, brand new, rookie into the season, doing what he's doing. Benny Smith in 5th. Good run by him. Rocco Landers, Dominic Doyle. So, again, there's a bright future. Right now, it's not just on the horizon; it's here right now. I mean, they're top 5 guys, but taking that next step and getting up there with the Richie Escalantes and the Sean Dylan Kelly, that's a pretty good next step.
It is, and also you have to look at other guys too. In Stock 1000, there's a lot of in twins also. There's a lot of talent in the field, but you look at this class, you see a lot of the younger guys wanting to make that next step, and you can tell they're just raising the bar, and they're so competitive, and one might beat the other one the previous race, and then that makes them work really hard to come back and try to beat them next week.
Handshakes, hugs, all around. And you're top of the world right now if you're Sean Dylan Kelly. Really hasn't put a tire wrong except for at MotoAmerica, but he still keeps extending that points lead. He can keep that smile on his face for another week, and he did his part this weekend. Now you move on to the next. You keep doing what you're doing right now, you're going to win this championship.
Yeah, he's got the ball rolling right now, you know, even just a couple seconds. But how many wins? 5 wins now, so he's definitely got it rolling, and he's just leading all the sessions. It looks like he has tons of confidence. He can lead the race from the front. We've seen him come from when he doesn't get a good start. And, you know, it's cool to see. Sean Dylan Kelly deserves this. He puts the work in. He's a really hard-working guy. I've seen him this offseason actually in Florida riding Super Motard. And, you know, he's one of those guys who trains like a professional. He was out there doing lap after lap after lap. A lot of the other guys were just out there cruising around.
Let's send it over to Jason Gregg next door and wrap up Supersport.
All right, welcome back to the Ridge Motorsports Park as Sean Dylan Kelly enjoying the celebration of his win under the bright sunshine and the extreme heat here in the Pacific Northwest. And Jason, looking forward to what's coming up next in a couple of weeks. We're at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. What are you thinking about Supersport and what the rest of the field has to do to catch SDK?
Well, there's 2 things. The psychological advantage that SDK put down this weekend, winning both those races, I felt pretty comfortable, even though he was challenged. That's a big statement on his part. The other thing, too, is that when you look at these 2 guys locked in the championship, we've seen some guys get closer to them, but never really at the end of the race. We have that same thing going here. So now Escalante's got to start to think about, he's got to start really putting a big win streak together to claw these points back because there's nobody else really involved to get in between them.
Here's a look at what just happened in race number 2, and really for Sean Dylan Kelly, Jason, Getting that launch was key.
It absolutely was, and to Escalante's credit, he even said, he's like, I got to get better at my starts, because that second and a half he gets pulled away from him at the beginning makes it a lot harder work for him. And these guys on new tires like Olmedo and Lochoff and Benjamin Smith, they're hard to pass at the beginning because they're out there on new stuff, new rubber, and by the time he gets to the point where he can go after SDK, he's got to use up his stuff a little bit more. Now, Lochoff here was really impressive today. It was a shame to see him run off late in that race because the 44 is just getting closer and closer each weekend. That said, Olmedo doing what he's been able to do, getting closer even with that injury. As you saw, that's where Lochoff ended up running off down there in the turn 7-8 area. At the end, Escalante put on a pretty big charge after being 2 seconds behind, but it just wasn't quite enough, as you see SDK holding on for the victory.
So the tail of this one definitely is movement of the tires in the extreme heat. In a couple of weeks, we don't expect to see, we hope we don't expect the heat here down in Monterey, California. Now here's a look at that championship. So Sean Dillon Kelly had 16-point advantage before this race. With that 5-point difference from first to second, jumps to 21. And then you can see Lochoff now has moved himself into third overall in the championship ahead of Stefano Mesa, who's a race winner who was not here this weekend. But we do expect to see Mesa back at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca.
Yeah, that's what he's telling us. He's going to be riding 600 there only, it sounds like. So we're going to get to see Mesa back.
So with these points and getting towards the halfway point of this season, we have 9 rounds total for 2021. And this is the conclusion of round 4. We look forward to seeing you at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca for the MotoAmerica Superbikes of Monterey. That's going to be in 2 weeks' time, July 9th through the 11th. We hope to see you there. For Handelope and Jason Pridmore, I'm Greg White. We hope you enjoyed Supersport race number 2. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
The same as yesterday, it's a double podium for all 3 riders. Olmedo to Richie Escalante.